Great. Well, it's missed my bit, but I don't suppose that's going to be a huge loss.
That's all right.
Sorry, Emma.
It's okay. So these samples will need to be collected between the 1st and 30th of March, and ideally aiming for mid to late tillering when the soil is moist. And you guys are the experts on your field, so there's going to be an element of judgment from you on when's the best time to take these samples. You know how your soil reacts. Is it after a big downpour? Do you need a couple of days for the water to run away? But we really trust you to kind of make sure when the right decision is for you to collect these samples. You'll be taking 3 cores per variety. So that's the 2 trial varieties in a V shape along your trial plot. And you see I've got a little diagram there. So 3 random positions along the V, so we get a random kind of distribution. And so you'll go in, you're going to select a healthy wheat plant. You're going to cut away the leaves and stem from above the ground level. Really importantly, record the GPS location using the Boffin Trialist app, and you'll be getting an instruction on how to use the app soon. You place the tube that we provide over the top of the plant, smack it down. We've got a piece of wooden block with a hammer, your weight, depending on your soil type. Dig out the pipe, cut the bottom clean, and then wrap it up and send it to us. So try to minimize disturbance as much as possible so we can see what the soil was like in that moment that you took it out. The next sampling protocol is for the John Innes Centre. So this is our soil microbiome analysis. I realise the purpose hasn't been updated on this slide, and I apologise. So this is soil microbiome analysis, and we're able to see what the bacteria and fungi are doing under the soil, whether that be nitrification, various other things. We're also measuring nitrification rates from your soil. So this needs to be done between the 1st of March and the 30th of May, and before your second fertiliser dose has been applied. You're going to take 5 samples per variety, so that is the 2 trial varieties and your farm standard in this one. And we're going to take samples from across the W across the plot. And again, there's a diagram there to explain that. So 5 random points across the W, so we get a good distribution. So we want you to select the locations. Again, record the GPS location. You're going to dig up 3 to 4 plants in that location. So you're going to then cut off the plant stem, place all the roots and soil from that single location in a bag. Discard some of the excess soil and stones. Obviously, we don't want it to weigh too much, but we are aiming for about 300 grams of soil in this one. And then prepare for sending. You're then going to repeat that for all 5 times. So at each location, this is the steps that you're going to take. Make sure you know which ones were taken from where. And then you're going to do the exact same thing again. But you're doing this 3 to 5 days after the second fertilizer dose has been applied. So the exact same protocol and the exact same location. So where you went prior to your application, you want to go to the same places, and 3 to 5 days after your second fertilizer dose and collect a second sample, and the exact same protocol. And the final one is for the Crop Science Centre. So this is the AMF analysis. So AMF, for those who don't know, are kind of beneficial fungi that are in the soil. They're really interesting. Tom Ferkel, the researcher, will, over the period of this project, teach you guys a lot more about how amazing AMF are. But we're looking about what species there are, and how many different structures there are, and how much have they colonized your roots. Again, this is between the 1st of March and 30th of May, and it is at the same time as your post-fertiliser John Innes Centre samples. So at the same time you're doing your second round for the John Innes Centre, you can collect these samples. You're going to take 4 samples per variety in the 2 different trial varieties, making that 8 samples. And you want to take them at the same locations as the John Innes Centre as much as possible. And what you're going to do is select a healthy wheat plant, record the GPS location again, dig down 20 centimetres to lift the root and remove the whole plant. And then you're going to take them home with you, making sure you don't get them mixed up. Back at home, we want you to wash the roots in cold water and remove the soil gently. Dry the roots with a paper towel or a tea towel or something to get that excess water off. And then you're going to cut about a 5 centimetre section from your roots. So not directly at the top, so go down a couple of centimetres and cut a 5 centimetre root section. There's a nice image there to show you what we're talking about. And again, this description is in the protocol. You're then going to place that 5 centimetre section of root into the tube, and then you're going to send them off. So that's the 4 sampling protocols. And just a quick table here. So for the University of Nottingham, between the 1st and 30th of March, you're testing, 3 per variety, 2 varieties, so there will be 6 samples, and we're generating a root core here, so something in a white pipe that you send off. For the John Innes Centre, you're doing this twice, so before your second fertiliser dose has been applied, and then after your second fertiliser dose has been applied. There are 5 samples per variety. You're testing 3 varieties, so the 2 trial varieties plus your farm standards, and we're after the rhizosphere and surrounding soil. So that's your root structure and the soil that's kind of clinging to the roots. We don't want the stuff that's half a foot away. You're doing that twice. And then finally, the Crop Science Centre, which can be done at the same time as your second John Innes Centre protocol, is same time as the post-fertiliser samples. And you're doing 4 per variety, 2 varieties, so you're getting 8 samples. And here we're looking for that root cutting. I hope that makes sense. You will also get this all sent to you in your pack. So as I said at the beginning, don't worry, you don't have to remember all of this. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Emma. That was that was really good. As she said, all of the guidance notes and everything will come out to you with your packs in the new year. So don't worry about remembering all of that. That's quite a lot to take in, but it'll all be in your guidance notes. Obviously, if you've got any concerns about those notes, if you've got sort of experience from last year or feedback about the notes, perhaps they weren't good enough or something needs changing or whatever, then let's talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to ask Laura now to guide us through the support that we can give.
Great. Can everybody see my screen? Yep, brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to very briefly talk you through the Boffin app. I'm conscious we've got a few of our research partners on the call today, so you might want to use some of the time asking them some questions about the protocols. So first things first. Doesn't seem to be letting me switch through, sorry. So an introduction to the app. So we developed this app so that we could tailor this to our Boffin projects. We wanted to make it easier to track progress, and we wanted to, support you to collect your data. We ask you to collect a lot of data across this project, so we wanted to make it easier to manage and track. We appreciate there's also multiple deadlines. Emma's just talked through some of the different sampling deadlines. There's obviously project ambassador quizzes. There's introduction sections that you need to complete. So we wanted to make it easier for you to track this and stay on top of it. Included in the app, there will be lots of resources as well. These are still currently being uploaded, but essentially it will be one central place for you to access the resources that we develop. So we'll have our protocols on there. There'll be some different knowledge guides that are developed by our team as well. What you'll be using the app for, so you'll be entering your trial data. You'll be completing the various project forms. I've got a couple of screenshots there you can see of what this is based on our Probity project, sorry. And then you'll be able to track your individual progress as well. So there's a progress bar, so you'll be able to see what tasks you've completed throughout the project. It's also going to be very useful for you to be able to access our project resources as well. And you can get involved in discussions. I obviously appreciate they use our WhatsApp channels as well for that, but it will have easy links for you to get involved in the discussions. As you can see. Brilliant. I'm going to go through installation guide now. So I have just sent you through a link using the on the WhatsApp channel, so on the Root Rangers chat. If you could open this on your phones rather than a computer, it just makes it, it's just so that we can get you to download it onto your phone, essentially. So I don't know if everybody has managed to click on that link. Let us know if you need us to text it through to you if you don't have WhatsApp. Also, I should note, for those that are involved in our other projects, so Reese, I can see you're on the call, you will have the same login details as your Slimers details. And for anyone that has multiple people that work on the project within their businesses, you will just use one login for each person. You can only use the app, one person can use the app at one time. But yeah, so if you just manage that between yourselves. Okay, so hopefully you'll have been able to click on the link. And you should see a screen that looks like this. The first thing that you need to do is you need to grant, for those that are on an iPhone, you need to grant access to the camera. So if you click on the little box that you can see looks like this here at the bottom of the browser, and then there's 3 dots. If you've clicked through there, once you scroll down, there's a section that has request desktop website, user read automatically, camera, microphone and location. And if you click on each of those and just click allow. For anyone that's having any issues with this, feel free to stay on at the end of the call and I can talk you through it if you're having any challenges. Okay. And hopefully if you've managed to do that, the next part is downloading this on your phone. So if you click on the little icon that looks like this for an iPhone, and then download, and then you will have login details. So Sky's kindly provided hers as example login details there, but yours will be the email address that we contact you on, so the one that we'll have sent your contract to, and any project information, and it will be your name, your first name, 2025 with an exclamation mark. I'm feeling that the silence is a good thing, and everyone's managed to get through it. But if not, as I say, if you're having any issues, please stay on at the end of the call and I can obviously talk you through it. One quite important thing about the app is that it will work offline. So as long as you're logged in before you enter the no signal zone, so make sure you do log in before you enter non-signal. So if you're going out into a field to record your data, just make sure you're logged in. You should be able to go out to the field, complete your work, and then when you enter back into Signal again, you should be able to upload that data, and it should have saved it. Brilliant. Obviously, we want this app to work for you and make your life easier throughout this project. So please just reach out to us if you have any questions. You know, we're here to help. As I say, stay at the end of the call and I can talk you through it again. But also we have Freddie's details there. You'll see Freddie is on this in the meeting at the moment. He is our support with the more technical queries that I definitely won't be able to help with. So I might field him a few of your queries if anything comes through. Great. I'm going to assume everybody's happy and I'll hand back over to Tom.
Great, thank you very much, Laura. I'm assuming that everyone is struggling away, trying to keep up and get things loaded onto their phone. Some of you may already have, if you're involved in our Slug project, for example, you've probably already got it on your phone. You've probably been using it in earnest over the autumn months. So now's the opportunity to have a discussion about anything. So any aspects of the sampling. If you want to, if you've got a question, just raise your hand and I'll bring you in. But if you've got any questions about the sampling protocol that Emma talked through, or any questions about the app, any technical questions, I have to say it's you know, we've been struggling through it with the Slimers thing, but I hope that we've ironed out most of the sort of initial teething problems that we had with it. Thank you very much, by the way, to those of you. I can see Reese is on the call, and I know that you contributed quite a lot to some of the glitches that we had initially with the Slimers one, for example. Has anyone done any shovelomics yet, or anyone got any observations on those varieties sitting in your fields? One thing I've noticed is that they are growing away quite vociferously. Anyone got any thoughts through it? Anna, I can see you've raised your hand. Yeah.
I mean, they are growing away, but they are going to be significantly taller by harvest time than your normal wheat. So I guess you would expect them to, whether that materializes into yield. I think it might just be straw, but when you get to harvest, they're going to be as tall as your shoulder, whereas your normal wheats barely reaches your hip. So yeah.
Well, that's interesting because, of course, you're organic, aren't you, Anna? But for those conventional farmers, we can use plant growth regulator to temper that growth, I suppose, can't we?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm seeing it in its raw form, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no agronomist, obviously, so I can't advise on what to use, but that's something to discuss with your agronomist. I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts on that. Has anyone got any experience of growing? We are talking about heritage landrace varieties here and controlling them. I don't know if anyone's got any experience of growing durum wheat as well that they'd like to share. I mean, my durum varieties, the Rossello and Capelli in my fields, are really looking quite good. It's nice to see. It's something we haven't really seen for a couple of years in autumn, a crop growing well. But I'm also conscious that there might be problems ahead. I don't know. Sorry.
Can I ask another question? Should we expect to see a difference in the soil next year? With their root structures, are they, as in there are bits of I've grown it in the same field as I had it in last year. So it had some quite tough bits, which seem a lot better this year. And I don't know if it's because of the dry summer or whether it's done something special to the soil that's loosened it up a bit, if you see what I mean.
So the varieties have actually helped to loosen up the soil a bit.
I don't know whether I'm imagining that or whether that's something you would expect with them going deeper or, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, Maria, I can see that you're in on the call. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on this. I think what Anna's saying is that potentially the rooting ability of these wheats might help improve the soil. Is that something that you can shed any light on?
Very, very. I would be very shy about it. I don't want to make a big, but it is. We didn't expect that 1 year or 2 years would have initially with the wedge roots would have an impact in the soil. But the analysis we have done with X-ray, particularly on the water retention capacity, actually they show impact after just 1 year. This was actually is data from the trial in Italy. I'm still working on my own, but we did see in the first year some impact. The roots grow different. There is whether it's you don't want to make a big fuss about it, but it is true that even after a year, you see differences between the land races. So that's quite compelling. The other thing is obviously it depends a lot on the conditions in the weather and so on. So I would be quite cautious about making any assumptions at the minute. It was a terrible year last year. I don't really know how we managed to grow any weight. But no, there is definitely an impact. The roots will grow different from different land races, and we do have data that shows that even after just 1 year, you will see differences in the soil, good differences in terms of the pores and the aggregation and so on. So I look forward to some of the results, to look at the results that you had.
Brilliant. No, thanks for that, Maria. That sounds really exciting. I mean, gosh, a wheat that can condition the soil. This is, I mean, obviously what we're growing above the ground is probably not very interesting, but, if we can, just thinking ahead, if we can harness the ability to do that and bring it into an elite variety, wouldn't that be exciting? I was just going to bring,
I also wanted to make a little comment, Anna, since you were saying it about that they grow taller. Some of these land races, they will actually use the nitrogen to make more leaves. They don't necessarily do more seeds. Normally the yield will be similar or even lower. They might have accumulate more nitrogen, so they might be a bit more quality. That's what we see, although the nitrogen in the seed depends on many factors. But it is true, they put a lot of effort in growing and making leaves. So don't expect much more yield because they are growing taller, just expect more leaves. And I have a question that is just a general question. I need to know which dose of nitrogen you have been applying, which kind of dose of fertilizer, because we did recommend quite a low dose, ideally. So I just want to know what's happening or what's the plan.
Yeah, I can't remember what we recommended. I haven't got the guidelines in front of me, but it is a lower rate of nitrogen. Is there? Can anyone remember what it is? But I've got a rate of something like 120 kilograms of N per hectare in my head, but I don't know whether. Just to be clear, the guidance notes will be, if they're not with you already, they will be coming out on that, just to give you chapter and verse on exactly what it is. But yes, we are planning to apply a lower rate to those trials. I hope that. Sorry,
Tom, it's 48 kilos. So it's 24 kilos per hectare at each application.
Right.
I think we did send the guidance.
Much lower than I said.
I know it's unusual to apply such a low thing, but this is how I have been growing the wheat for years, and it really grows. And applying twice as much, which we have done for the waste roots, didn't really reflect in any improvement in yield or nitrogen in the seed or anything. So they just grow taller and they just make more leaves. So yeah, 48. Thank you, Laura. I remember we had a lot of mails about that.
Yeah, I was just going to bring in, going back to the soil elements. Craig, I can see that you're in on the call. If you can join us, I just wanted to know, whether this is something that you've seen in your work, in terms of, how the root can help condition the soil. Different rooting structures can help condition the soil. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. There's like a whole range of different types of roots moving through the soil. They're exuding different polysaccharides and things into the soil, and they're going to break up that soil structure or bind it together. So there's kind of both positive and negative effects in there. And obviously, if you're kind of feeding the soil, there's more carbon going into it. The microbial biomass and things going to be turning over that. So there's certainly a lot of evidence to suggest the impact of roots in kind of improving soil structure there. So yeah, quite a general answer, but it's certainly quite exciting. That's why this project's so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the other element is that it's up to the plant to decide how and when it turns on the relationship with the AMF in the soil, for example. And so it'll be interesting to see how these varieties interact with the AMF, and we'll get that from the samples, from the AMF samples sent into Tom Thurkel at the Crop Science Centre. So hopefully we'll get some feedback from him on what's going on here, the difference between these varieties and your farm standard varieties, whether there are any differences indeed. Yeah, just going back to the management of these varieties going forward. I know that some of you have got experience in growing heritage varieties, and I think Reese, if I can ask you to join the call, am I right in thinking that you're already growing some heritage varieties?
Yeah, we grow Wakelands YQ, like a population rate. So the 17 different land races that make 190 something crosses, so it looks quite mental. Some small stuff, some really big stuff, really big stuff. We try to graze it and just don't put much nitrogen, to be honest. No more than like 40 kilos. I've never actually used a growth regulator on it, but also I don't tend to in general, don't tend to need to. Pretty dry around here. But yeah, grazing works. Also, I'm very fortunate. I've got a MacDon draper header as well, so that's quite helpful if it does. But it does seem to, it doesn't go flat as a pancake like a modern variety when it's, you know, tumbled. It brackles like barley. It doesn't tend to have the heads on the floor, so doesn't tend to be too bad to pick up if it does go over.
Right, I see. So you mentioned that it's a lower rate of nitrogen on that. Is it still the same sort of timings?
Yeah, same timings, and like you're advising, always split it, because I don't want a big like sort of massive growth in weak stems.
Yeah, and you graze them as well. Can you just talk through what?
Yeah, so like February time, especially this year, if we get the chance, with having so much sort of frothy growth coming into winter. Yeah, like February time, like before growth stage 31, before the ears at a centimetre. Try to run sheep across it, take everything out and let it start again. It's good growth regulation. Just pin it back a bit.
Now I've written about this before, this thing of grazing, and I don't know how many other people on the call do it, but I have to say, as a farmer myself, I've been really nervous about letting a load of sheep loose on my wheat at a crucial time of the year. What's the key thing to bear in mind when you do that, Rhys?
You can be surprisingly bullish. It can look pretty bare and will come back exceptionally well and tiller out. It was not good this year because the sheep came off and then it didn't rain, so it didn't do as many favors this year. But in a normal year, yeah, you get a good removal of septoria from old leaves, and yeah, enhanced tillering, and so and
just make sure you don't go past the growth stage 31.
Yeah, 31 is the key, because you don't want them to graze down and eat the ear basically. So yeah.
Simon, I can see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear about the dual use, and I was wondering with Rhys, so if you ever wanted to make some kind of calculation of productivity, and then if you start doing something like that, obviously it's an element of productivity that's quite hard to quantify compared to yield. So I was wondering if Rhys had any, it's because I've got nothing to do with farming. I don't know how you know if an animal's eaten enough, and then how much you've saved on animal feed.
Yeah.
By doing that.
So the sheep aren't our own. We just sort of host a grazier on the farm. So he's away summer months on solar farm. So yeah, there's not so much productivity for us in like finishing lambs. So there's no, he pays, I don't know, 20p a head a week or something. The money's negligible because they're not on for very long. It's more, I guess, a saving in growth regulator and a saving in fungicides. So yeah, when I've done it in the past, it's meant I've got through without using any fungicides. And there's no way of saying that's definitely the single factor that did that, but it's a contributing factor for sure.
But one thing I'd better check with the scientists on the call is if we do, because I might give it a go actually on my plots, but is that going to damage the that's not going to cause any problems with the sort of scientific elements of the project? Has anyone got any concerns about that? Please speak now before we let our sheep loose on our trial plots. I might give it a go, actually, Rhys. I've never done it before.
It's quite amazing how quickly it comes back. I guess the only thing is with the CT cores, especially, like they will have an impact on structure for sure. It's inevitable. They're quite untidy grazers.
Anna, you got your hand up.
Did somebody not do their trial last year on grazing? I don't know. They were in the same agronomics pack as me. I can't remember who it was, but somebody did a trial and compared the yield of the two. Nobody on the call.
We had in our truth trial, we had the sheep grazing across half of it.
Oh,
but I didn't
oh,
think
So we've done it for the last 2 years, but so the most recent year, none of the sampling was in the trial bit, was it? In the grazed bit. But the year before was, I think, is that right? The year before we, the first year of the project, we took cores in our farm trial and the standard. That's right, isn't it? I think. So I'm pretty sure
That's
from
right,
the first
yes.
year I've got compared. There's like, and the cores do look slightly different. You can see they've done a bit of damage. That didn't get taken to yield, but not because of the sheep's fault. It was so full of blackgrass that I got rid of it.
Right. Oh, interesting. Simon, I think you had your hand up. Were you taking it down?
I think my question was answered because I just said, if you're going to do it, Tom, if it was possible at all to put a fence halfway down the field, a temporary fence, and just see plus and minus, it would be really interesting, I think. But it sounds like it's been done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I might do that. Great. Have we got any other? David, you've got your hand up.
Morning, Tom. Yeah, just a question in connection with the whole picture, as it were. Is any a grain sampling for what's left in the grain at the end of harvest going to be done? Any checking of nutrient status of the grains to see whether there's anything to learn from that and extrapolate into what the roots must have been able to achieve?
We haven't got that necessarily within the project. It's not sort of part and parcel of what we're looking at, but it's certainly something we can do. There's no reason why we can't send some samples off if we feel that that's going to be a useful part of the project. What specifically, is there anything in particular that you're interested to find out, David?
Well, the thought was going through my mind that if we're looking at nitrogen use efficiency improvements from extra rooting, then given the level of nitrogen being applied, have we achieved more into the year as a consequence? Have we actually captured more of that nitrogen or not? That was really where I was going with it from a commercial perspective more than anything else.
Yeah, we do need to get an assessment of nitrogen use efficiency across it, and I mean that's certainly something we can do. Simon, before I bring you in, I'm going to ask Emma to come in because I wondered what your thoughts on this would be, Emma.
And really interestingly, we had a technical project meeting yesterday and this very conversation came up. It's something that between us and the scientists are discussing about the value of that and whether it's something we can achieve in the projects. Obviously, I'll look to Tom and Laura about whether we would be able to collect the grain later on in the year when we reach that stage. But you're bang on in that discussion, whether that's the next piece of data that we should be collecting to bring the whole picture together. Ultimately, when this project was submitted, it was all about what's happening under the ground, and it's perhaps a bit short-sighted of us to not try to look at what's happening above the ground. But with projects like this, you do have to pick what you're going to look at, but maybe we're able to add a grain assessment at the end. But yeah, bang on with that conversation, and we were there yesterday.
Can we just do a poll? For those people who think that it would be a good idea to do a grain sample at the end of the harvest, bearing in mind that we will, if we go for it, then we'll be bugging you to do a grain sample and actually send it in, and so on and so forth. But if you think that would be useful, can you stick up your thumb or something like that? Do some sort of reaction. Stick up your thumb or put your hand up or something like that, in order to show that you're. Yep. We've got quite a few. It looks, yeah, we've got plenty actually. I think I think we've taken a vote, haven't we? We'll do it. So I'm afraid we've subjected you to yet another bit of sampling, but it looks as though it's going to be useful. So let's do it, and we'll work out exactly how. It'll probably be. I mean, so there's Yen Nutrition actually do quite a good service. So
That was
maybe
where
that's something.
that's where I was thinking, Tom.
Yeah.
Nutrition or land crop. I mean, anybody like that would be easy enough to organise to do it, and give you a reasonably comprehensive response too.
Right. Well, interestingly enough, because the probity farmers are going through Yen Nutrition, so maybe we'll sign up all the root rangers as well. I'll have to have a look at the costs and work out. I think we've got budget for it. That's the main thing. But I need to check on that. So let's go away, have a look. But we'll look into that. Thanks for that, David. That's really useful. Anyone, I mean, there you are. That just shows you, you can bring an idea to a meeting like this, and it gets actioned. That's what we do at Boffin. So any other good ideas? Said he, wondering about just how much of my budget I'm going to have left at the end of it. Anyone else got any other ideas? Any thoughts that we can do, or feedback as well? And also bear in mind we've got the scientists here. So if you've got any questions to grill the scientists about, then now is the opportunity. I was just wondering, bearing in mind we're sort of tying together the pest sensor sampling with the shovelomics. Emma, you talked about the sampling protocols earlier on about when the best timing is to take the various samples. When it comes to shovelomics, doing the shovelomics assessment, when about should we be making those?
Oh, I don't know exactly. My apologies. It was a long time ago since we did the training on that. But it should be in the guides that will get sent out. But again, I think it comes down to knowing your soil, and I'm really an advocate of that. That farmers, your soil the best, and it needs to be a time. Oh, I think Charlotte's in the call. It needs to be a time.
Actually, Charlotte's the expert. I didn't realise you were on the call, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Do come in.
Charlotte.
Hi, yeah, sorry. It's just before stem extension, really, which is the best time. So it's when you can get a spade in the ground. But if you go just before stem extension, it should be, then everyone's doing it around the same point in time as well.
While you're there, Charlotte, could I just ask you about the results that I posted, and you very kindly came back on as well, and you verified that they were statistically significant and so on and so forth. So have you got any other comments about that? I mean, I guess the thing is the sample that I took, very much early autumn. There wasn't really very much growth there to measure. I hope I did it correctly and got the right metrics and so on. But I did notice as I was measuring it that, between the varieties, there was definitely difference between the varieties. Although, each one that I did, so I did 5 samples per variety, and they were quite different between the 5. But I'm hoping that gives you a nice average. But yeah, just can you just give me a little bit more feedback on the results that I posted?
Yeah, you're kind of putting me on the spot because I don't have them open, to be honest with you. But I did, you sent me the Excel file, which was really handy. So I did some stats. And the reason we suggest taking 5 is because you do get noise in root growth. They're a lot more noisy than most parameters that you're looking at in crop physiology. So it was handy to have that, and you did get significant difference between some of the metrics, but some of the things we've measured, but not all of them. I think I spelled it out in the reply on the WhatsApp, which I'm not going to look at now because it would be really rude. And I was pleasantly surprised that, firstly, this early on you were picking up differences. Because we do recommend doing shovelomics a little bit later. And it also supported what we found in the last workshop as well, which was really, really lovely confirmation that the shovelomics light version we've derived is actually picking up differences and supported in anger in, proper commercial farmers' fields with not, I don't know, outside of the science project, if that makes sense, that we were pulling these out of. So it's really lovely for me to see that confirmation, and pleasantly surprising that we're getting significant differences this early on as well. So I would also encourage, as you did at the beginning, Tom, that if anyone fancied going out are looking early as well as later, that you're probably going to be seeing some differences, which is
just to highlight there for those who joined the workshop last month. So what we did is we David Jones went out and sampled. I think it was 3 lines. So he did a Watkins, he did Extase as the control, and he did one other. I can't remember what it was. But
we had the EGT line and one of the Durham wheats. I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah. And then his Extase, I think it was his farm standard. And we put them in buckets, but no one knew which they were. And then there were 15 people at the workshop, I think. And so we had 5 each that we measured during the workshop. And it was an absolute textbook answer. So if I remember rightly, the EGT lines, as suspected, had the sort of steepest, least developed root growth, followed by the Extase, and then if I remember rightly, the Durham wheat was a monster, and sort of motored ahead in terms of.
It was actually Beowulf, not Extase, the commercial.
It was Beowulf, right?
Yeah. But yes, it was textbook. It was wonderful test of what we'd done, and I was thinking afterwards that it would have been awful if it didn't work, and we were still asking you to do it. So it was because we hadn't tested it with these varieties. It was wonderful to see it working, and looking at your results, Tom, it was great to see that there was pulling out differences, but that they were statistically different as well, which was nice.
Yeah. No, it was really great to see. Well, and also the other thing about that is, that was a workshop. We did a little bit of a scientific experiment, if you like, and we got a statistically significant result. So who says that farmers can't do proper science?
Yeah, no.
So there we go. Brilliant. Any other? I can see that. We're nearly near the end of this. If you've got any queries or questions about the app, please do come back to us. Sky's on holiday at the moment, but Freddie's available, Laura's available. So do come back if you've got any queries, questions, problems. It'll really be sort of in the new year, I guess, when things will start in earnest. So is the app actually set up for Truth yet?
Yes, it is.
Right. So we can if we join on our the login details, then it'll come up with a little Truth thingy.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Shows how informed I am. Brilliant. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Please do keep the conversation going on the WhatsApp channels, and so on. And also, if you can, please post on the Farming Forum as well. The more information and knowledge and so on that we generate, the more knowledge we'll receive. So that's brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Unless there are any other last-minute burning questions or comments, then I shall draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.